Hi, I'm Mayim Bialik, and welcome to my summer breakdown.
It's Mayim Bialik's breakdown. She's gonna break it down for you, because you know she knows a thing or two. So now she's gonna break down. It's a breakdown. She's gonna break it down.
Doing things a little bit different here. We're having some fun this summer. We're traveling. Jonathan, say hello to the summer friends.
Summer fun time.
We don't want to leave you hanging, though, without any MBB content. So what we have this summer is some episodes that aren't like our usual episodes, but they have all of the insight, the banter, the information, the big picture, and also a lot of the fun details of everything you want to know about mental health, wellness, and how not to break down. So this is our attempt at being fun and loose. These are our summer editions, and we will see you with fresh episodes and less of a tan in the fall.
Break it down.
Let's talk to Matthew McConaughey. What? Do you have any idea who we are?
I have somewhat of an idea.
Well, we can't believe that you're here talking to us. And I was thinking, what favor did he have to do to come speak to us?
Did I do any favors? Is there something I don't know about, Jonathan? Do you know anything about that maybe I did that I don't know that I did?
It was a long campaign. It was pressure from all sides to get him here. We had deep-seated spies in Texas gathering dirt.
You got me, and I didn't even know what it was.
That's what I assumed. I guess I wanted to sort of start with these two wet dreams you had.
Yeah, thank goodness. I wouldn't be sitting there talking to you right now if I didn't have those two wet dreams.
That's true. Now, the dream you had two dreams that sent you on two separate and very specific journeys in your life.
Yeah.
Was it the same dream twice?
That's why.
Right. It's the same dream.
Exact same dream. I had this dream in 1993. Whoa, I woke up. That was a wet dream. Boy, the elements of that dream do not add up to a typical wet dream. What was that about? Oh, okay.
Okay, another thing that I related to you with, because I sometimes have dreams like that, but they're not sexual. It's just like a thing and it's happening. But none of them take me the places
you're
you're
with it as long as we can.
It's so weird. Okay, go ahead. I shut up. Your transition from high school to college was also one of tremendous challenge. Yeah. And you ended up, you took on a very interesting, strict vegetarian diet. Because you said you craved discipline. You were depressed, my friend, and you were trying to make sense of insanity.
I needed some measurement of achievement a day, and eating that head of lettuce with half a bottle of Heinz ketchup poured over it gave me a sense of accomplishment. To run those 6 miles a day, even though I was losing all the weight, gave me a sense of accomplishment.
Right.
To say out to be celibate, yet still go masturbate in the bathtub every night, gave me a sense of accomplishment.
Right.
I needed these sort of measuring sticks to go, I did that today. I followed through on that because my world was chaos.
Right. Well, and we call that binding anxiety. You were finding all sorts of ways to kind of make it make sense. I don't mean to get all, fancy on you, but it's like
binding anxiety.
Binding anxiety.
She loves a good label.
I love a good label.
I do too.
Let's welcome Kelly Clarkson.
Every time someone asks me anything about, mental health and like the industry and like working in it, I literally always think of this one moment I had in my garage at Texas, or when it was in Texas, and it was at my house, and it was just, I don't know why, but it was right after I finished like the third tour for my breakaway record, which was like the biggest record for me. And I don't know why, but I needed milk or something. It was something so weird, but I needed milk, but I just didn't want to see people, like, because I was empty. I was like, I have no fuel to like be, and it's not that I didn't want to be nice. It's just I just had no fuel, and I was run down. I didn't know I could say no yet, and as a girl, especially from the South where I'm from, it's like you don't want to appear lazy or bitchy or all the things. So I didn't really have that knowledge in my core yet. So I literally needed milk, and I looked at my brother, and I just like literally started hysterically crying because I was like, I can't take it back. And at the time, Jason was just like the whole time was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
I was like, and he was trying to help me, but I was just like, I can't take it back. You can't take it back. Like, you're just famous. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, even if it doesn't work out and you're not famous anymore, your career goes to crap or whatever, you're still famous. Like, people still know who you are, you know, a lot of places. So I don't know why, but for some reason that one moment, I don't know, it must have been like 2005, 2006, somewhere around there. But I literally, I had like not like a breakdown, but I had like a moment in my garage where I just like cried it out for like a good solid 10 minutes in front of my brother going, I can't take it back. And I was like, I just want milk. I don't want to go get milk because I don't want somebody to talk to me. I was like,
You know, there's this whole question of like, well, if I feel better when I look better by other people's standards, does that count, right? Okay, so there's a way I'm supposed to look. I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel like myself. I still feel like other people get to tell me, oh, you shouldn't wear that. You wear black too much. Or like, can you lose some weight? Like, why is your body like that? You know, like that's still a big part.
Let me interject though, because this is what happened with me. Is I was sitting in a room full of, no offense, first of all, let me say, I love men. I love older men. They're great. But I was sitting in a room full of men that were far older than me and telling me what I should be like, what I should say in interviews, what I should sing, and I'm like, y'all don't even listen to me. You're not even my core audience. Like, how would you know? Like what? And it was, and it really, I think because when you start going, and I realized in that moment, I will never please anyone. You're a really great conversationalist. That's why I was so excited to do this. Like, so down to earth. And, like, really smart and witty. And it was just it was a nice bouquet of everything.
Thank you. That's me. Yeah. I'm a nice bouquet of everything.
You're a nice bouquet of all of it. You came on my show, and I was like, I literally looked at your Wikipedia, and I was like, Jesus, I'm a dumbass. And I was like, man, I'm in the presence of someone that is not only cool, beautiful, so intelligent, has been just killing it since you were how old?
She also hosted Jeopardy, just FYI.
I lost at Family Feud. You're already badass. You don't have to try. You are so cool.
And if people are only listening to the audio, you got to see Mayim's reaction to Kelly Clarkson setting her straight.
This just became like Kelly Clarkson doing therapy for me, which is literally the dream that I had 4 nights ago. It's a real, real honor to have him here. Welcome, Kunal.
When I began to struggle mentally, when I began to have those dark episodes, that was very shocking to me.
How old were you?
Probably my first panic anxiety was when I was 30. Like 29, 30 is when I had a panic attack on the highway. Didn't know what that was.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, ever since then, I've had to fight some kind of battle with panic or anxiety.
That's actually a great way to define a panic attack. You don't know what it is. An anxiety attack, you know, like, oh, this feels like, oh, it feels so icky. But panic attack is the like, what is happening? I mean, I've had to pull off the road. Having a panic attack while driving is one of the most terrifying things. Death feels very close. Death feels very close.
Yeah, especially on the highway,
Yep.
you know, and I had never experienced that. So I just got off and someone was in the car with me. I said, there's a lot of traffic ahead because I was embarrassed too.
Right.
So I'm having this full-blown panic attack inside. Now I'm being embarrassed. So like I'm pulling off and joking. And inside I don't know what the hell's going on. I got so bad, I couldn't even look at my car keys without feeling panic. And then I knew something was wrong. And then I had to begin to fight my way back to look at it. Because the scary thing is we don't look at it. We don't turn within and say, what is this? I didn't even know any of that. So I started seeing a therapist. And that was very helpful. Very, very helpful.
What kind of therapist, can I ask?
Hypnotherapy, because at the time, I was just trying to get over my fear of driving on the highway. I didn't know the road it was going to lead me to. I didn't realize what I was going to uncover, because when I started getting better and driving back on the highway again, it began to happen in elevators. Mm-hmm. So 3 years after working on the highway, it started happening and I've never liked heights or elevators. Never. But then it became like the highway again. And that's when I said something's wrong. That was 5 years into therapy. And that's when I called my parents and I said, I'm sick. Like something's wrong. I'm feeling like mentally sick. They said, oh, it's okay. We see a family therapist. And I was like, what? I didn't even know. So they sent me to this Indian therapist when I was home. And I had a really, really lovely time.
I mean, this just sounds stupid, but like I could totally see you, being a a speaker, a religious kind of, a spiritual leader. Like, if you want to start a cult, I'll be your first member. This is not like a BS interview where like celebrities tell each other how amazing they are, but I can absolutely attest to that whenever anybody would ask me about you or, you know, tell us about the cast members, you know, there's like an anecdote about everybody. But the thing that I always would say about you is you had a tremendous sense of presence and optimism. And that, you know, and we went through challenges for sure. We went through challenges, you know, like there's things that people don't, I always say to people, like, you don't know everything that happened in all of our lives, you know, like a lot happened in those years. And you really always were, you know, kind of that cheerleader, but not in an obnoxious sense. We're very excited to welcome Rainn Wilson.
Listen.
Yes.
The thing that pisses me off is all the people claiming their nerd cred, like Charlize Theron.
Oh,
like,
I love this.
I was so nerdy in high school, and no one like talked to me, and I was so nerd. It's like, can I swear on this?
Yes.
Fuck you. Fuck you. As someone who got the shit beat out of him and mocked and humiliated, when our chess team won the state tournament, and I was fifth board, and they created a giant banner in the high school. Congratulations, chess, on winning state. And we all walked in one morning, me and my chess nerdy friends, and we were like, oh my God, that's so great. And they were waiting, and they saw us, and they started laughing at us. They made it as a joke. The Glee Club, Pep Club made it as a joke. So fuck you, Charlize Theron. And Jennifer Aniston and everyone who's like, oh, we're so... Give me a fucking break. You have no idea.
Wait, my favorite is when they ask people, like, were you a geek? Or like, I was a theater geek. That's totally different.
Totally
Being
different.
a theater geek is very different.
Very different.
Than having your nickname be Weird Al.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's very, very different.
Mayim Bialik's Breakdown is supported by BetterHelp.
Life can be so overwhelming, and things like lack of motivation, feeling helpless or trapped, detachment, fatigue, those can be signs that you are burnt out. Many of us associate burnout with work, but that's not the only cause. Let me tell you, being a parent, and I've been a parent without doing anything but being a parent, that can burn you out real quick. Any of our roles in life can lead us to feeling burned out. BetterHelp Online Therapy wants to remind you it's important to talk to someone, figure out what's causing stress in your life, prioritize yourself and your mental health. BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. I've done a lot of different kinds of therapy. I've done all of the above, and you know what? Even chatting with someone, even not being ready to show your face but starting to talk, that is a great first step. BetterHelp is more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can be matched with someone in under 48 hours. Mayim Bialik's Breakdown listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/break.
That's betterhelp.com/break. Mayim Bialik's Breakdown is supported by Best Fiends.
You know how they say happiness comes from within?
I've heard that.
Sometimes that's true, but sometimes happiness comes from playing Best Fiends. Jonathan, what level do you think I'm on? We do this every time.
And I always forget what level you say next. I think you're on level 1420.
That's a great guess. I'm on level 1530. What do I love about this game? Well, to be honest, one of the best things about it is you don't need Wi-Fi to play it. So if I'm on a plane or I'm somewhere where I don't have Wi-Fi, the games they're not super long, so I'm not like my children, always making me wait. It's like, finish the thing I'm doing. These are small rounds that you can play. It is incredibly satisfying. I enjoy it. You can download it for free from the App Store or Google Play, and you can earn even more with $5 worth of in-game rewards when you reach level 5. That's friends without the R, Best Fiends. I love this game. There it is, right there. That's a roundabout way of introducing us to our guest, Leslie Jordan.
And then when I was 11, my dad's plane went down, and he was killed on active duty. He was flying to Hattiesburg, Mississippi for a summer Army Reserve camp. So that sort of shattered everything. and then kind of the troubles began because I started acting out a little bit because, it's a terrible time to lose your dad. And I couldn't deal very well with all, there's a lot of drug use and carrying on and, incarcerations and this and that, which I think made me who I am today, to go through all of that. I try very hard. I'm home now with my mom and we're like best friends, but I put her through the ringer, put her through the ringer. And so, but it was, it all happened to make me who I am today. So I fell out of the womb and landed in my mother's high heels. That was just it. I landed. That's where I landed. And so you figure out, wow, it's a little easier being gay, when I'm loaded. And thus began this self-medicating. When I was 42, I got sober from everything. Went to, a recovery program. What was interesting was that my spiritual advisor said to me, I asked him when I was about 3 years into recovery, would you help me? And because I saw him around and he was like this kind of super guy, Superman. And he said, no, can't work with you. It's just too much drama. You buy into all the drama. And I thought, I didn't know what he was talking about. I had no idea what he was talking about. Yep. He said, somebody else can win. 5 years, I finally went to him and he said, call me at 10 minutes after 8 tomorrow morning and tell me 5 fears.
Yep.
So what does that have to do with anything? I called him up at 10 minutes after. I said, I'm afraid of getting AIDS. I'm afraid I'm going to, this. He goes, okay, baby. Ooh. He says, when are you going to leave the house? All those fears. He said, now call me in the morning, 10 minutes after 8. Tell me 5 fears. Meanwhile, go to a recovery meeting and put your hand out and greet every single newcomer. I thought, we're not dealing with my problem. What are we doing here? And we got up to about 80 fears. And then all of a sudden it started making sense because he would say, okay, real and imagined. Yep. I said, I don't know the difference. He goes, well, a real fear, a bear's chasing you through the woods. That's a real fear. The bear might eat you. But most of your fears, every one of my fears were imagined.
False evidence appearing real. That's what fear is.
There you go. Oh, my God.
No, our brain doesn't know the difference between real or imagined fear. But I think also what Leslie's kind of talking about is those are the things that stop us from being our whole self. It's fear and it's resentment. I say this to Jonathan all the time. If you had to name the two things that are going to stop you from being who God intended you to be, the universe, whatever you want to call it, it's fear and it's resentment. And it will follow you everywhere. It'll follow you throughout. And being sober it's not a solution. It's the first step you take towards that rigorous honesty. Without further ado, it's really an honor to welcome Nikki Glaser to My Bialik's Breakdown.
The epiphany was the other day I was like, it's been a month. And I go, I want to smoke pot. I just said it out loud. My roommate, Andrew, was like, he's my co-host on my podcast. And he goes, don't. And I go, I'm not going to. I'm just saying there's something right now. There's a feeling right now that made me want to go reach for it. What is it? And I go, I don't know what it is. And then I was like, all of a sudden I go, wait a second. Feelings can be a drug that I can get excited about. What? There's something so boring about being sober to me, or so I was getting something from being high. It wasn't an escape. It was I was getting high. Music sounded better, blah, blah, blah. I don't even know the drug of feelings. What is that gonna fucking be? It's almost like I get to now experiment, and I'm just microdosing with feelings because I can't go full in. I'm too scared of what will happen. But I'm just
you could OD.
That's the fear. My mom was very scared of me going down to the river and, dying, drowning. An accident happening was, I got the first child, overly sensitive parent, very cautious. But instead of watching me, I think she just scared me of everything so that I wouldn't do anything. So instead of let's go to the river and see how this could be done right, it was just if you go to the river, you will die. And I just remember getting that message. Then my dad would come home from work and be like, let's go down to the river. Come on, let's go kayaking. And I'd be like, ah! Just shrieking. And he's like, what happened at the river? So my first word, first multi-syllabic word that wasn't mama or dada was dangerous. And I would point to things that were dangerous. So I was terrified. I was a terrified child. My mom is a very anxious person anyway and comes from long lines of anxiety. And I think that she was 25. You know, you look back at your parents that had you at such a young age and what they're like now. And I wouldn't even necessarily want them to have kids now, let alone when they're 25. Just not because they're not great people, but because they just didn't know what was right and wrong. And I love my parents now so much. When I first got into therapy, you know, decades ago, it was blame them, angry at them, like couldn't be around them without just, you know, lashing out with resentments of why did you do this? And now I never wanted to give them they did their best, because that's always like, did you? Because there's a lot of other options that would have been better. And I just don't feel like but they actually did. Now I realize that you really can't, they love me as much as they can.
Chelsea Handler, welcome to Mayim Bialik's Breakdown.
And they warn you when you're doing ayahuasca, especially on camera. They're like, you may shit your pants and you may vomit. And I was like, first of all, I'm not an amateur, so I'm definitely not going to shit my pants during a high and ruin that for everybody. That's not happening. My shaman, however, he shot his pants twice during the ceremony and never got up to even go to the bathroom. So that's what I was up against.
I mean, I need a moment to think about that.
Yeah, think about that, Mayim. Did you see the video on Instagram, you guys, with that rattlesnake? Or I don't know what kind of snake it was. I think they're all rattlesnakes.
I can't even watch videos with snakes.
No,
if there's a snake, I can't even look at it.
I can't even talk about it.
No, I'm
really
like,
upset.
it's the only thing that I'm like terrified of. I'm like, I don't understand why
you're
those
terrified
things...
of other things. We'll talk about that later.
My reaction to seeing a video of snakes is like, I curl up on a sofa and hold my vagina because I'm scared they're coming for it.
That's what Jonathan does too.
That's the right reaction. That's the appropriate response.
Let's welcome to our breakdown, Kal Penn.
You know, I remember the show Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Like, I auditioned for this show. I prepped for this thing. It was really only one scene. And I created a whole backstory for the character where he was like from Seattle and liked small batch organic coffee. And I go to the audition. They asked me to do an Indian accent. I did it ultimately. I got the part and I asked my agent, and I was like, do you think that you could call them and see if I could do it the way I did the first audition without an accent? She goes, you know you're taking the part because it pays $700 and your rent is $550 that month. I'm like, correct. Like, second of all, you know that you're taking this part because you need credits on your resume. I can't pitch you for things if your resume is barren. So why don't you go in a little early, pull the director aside, and just have a conversation with him? So I'm like, oh, I didn't know that was a thing I could do. That would be great. So I go in early, I pull this director aside. I was like, hey, I was just hoping that maybe.
And how old are you? Hold on.
I am, how old? I am probably, 22.
Yeah,
23?
a pisher. Like a pisher. Like a kid. Yeah. Like.
Yeah. And by the way, it's like super skinny. Like for people who, if you got the audiobook, you didn't see the photo, but you can check my Twitter. It is prominently displayed on there. It's just this like very baby faced headshot kid. I probably weighed like 120 pounds. And the director, I was like, I'd love if I could maybe play the part without an accent. What do you think? And he goes, oh, no, I mean, that accent's really funny. That's why we hired you. And so I remember thinking, well, they say that racism comes from ignorance. So maybe I'll just explain to him. So I said, well, you know what? I appreciate this so much. And the show is so funny. And by the way, like, the show was not that funny. It's about a fucking talking cat and witches, right? It's like really low hanging fruit there. So I buttered him up and I said, I think I would just love to be able to play it without an Indian accent because, I never got to see characters who looked like me on screen.
I'm just like, he must be like, I can't keep going.
Who didn't have, well, I felt like I had nothing to lose, right? So I was like, I never got to see characters like this growing up on screen. And I just thought it would be really, really great if there was a guy who just spoke like I did. And he looks at me like I have asked for the world. And he goes, no, I said you're doing the accent and that's what you're going to do. And then I thought, okay, you know what? I'm obviously not explaining it properly. So I said, I said, my cousins, I have little cousins. This was true. I have little cousins.
This is the best part of the story. Go ahead.
They love Sabrina the Teenage Witch. And I think it would be so cool, since they've never seen anyone who looks like them on TV who wasn't a stereotype, if maybe when they watch the show, they get a different experience than the one that I had when I was growing up. And wouldn't that be amazing if, in a show this funny, if they didn't have to watch a stereotype? And he looks at me and he goes, your little cousin should feel lucky that you're allowed to be on TV to begin with, and so should you. And he walks off. And I was like, okay, so it's not ignorance. It is a very calculated, very purposeful thing that people do when they're talking about race and representation. And that kind of blew my mind, right? Because you're trained to assume the best in people, or at least at that time, when you're 22, come on, before you're a cynic, before you realize the ways of the world.
You are engaged, correct?
Yep.
And you've been with your partner for over a decade. This is a long relationship. Was that something that you've chosen kind of to keep separate from your public identity? Was it a combination of just like, it's none of your business, or gosh, what an interesting time to be a gay person who's alive? Like, I'm curious if it was part of your consciousness also as a kid or as a teenager.
Definitely, yeah, no, and I appreciate that question. I was not somebody who was struggling with their sexuality as a kid, and so, like you said, I was a late bloomer. I kind of discovered my own sexuality relatively late in life. I think I mentioned that in an interview after the book came out, because I was naively, I didn't think, chapter 18, where I talk about how my partner Josh and I met, and we met ridiculously over like our second date. So this is when I was living in DC, and I was supposed to, your Sundays are like the only days that you don't really have to go into work. And so I was like, look, man, I can't really hang Saturday night, but like Sunday afternoon, if you want to like come over, we can have a beer and watch TV or something. So I remember he comes over. I had SpongeBob SquarePants on my TV because I'm a romantic.
Like you do.
Yes, one does. And he comes over with an 18-pack of Coors Light and like turns my TV on to a NASCAR race, like with no sense of irony for either things. And I was like, oh, this dude's obviously leaving in 20 minutes with like 16 of those beers, because this is not how I'm spending my afternoon. And so I tell the story about this like essentially second date gone wrong, and then how we ended up connecting off of a conversation about NASCAR and family. And then the book comes out, and I didn't realize that there was going to be all this attention on our relationship or even my sexuality.
Let's get my friend Eliza Schlesinger on. You texted me in excruciating pain. And this is not the first time I've gotten such a text from someone in my life who I love, because I am the resident neuroscientist and also the resident person whose body has broken down the way most 90-year-olds have had their body break down. I've had a lot of ailments. And I diagnosed, I believe, which vertebrae was out. I think I said C4, C5 based on your
arm
symptoms.
pain.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, it was very specific. Yeah. So you have, are they ruptured? Are they herniated?
They're herniated.
Okay, so you have herniated discs in the C4, C5 region.
In the C4, I think it's C5, C6, C6,
Okay.
C7, or C4, C5,
Okay,
C5,
fine.
C6.
That-
but there's two.
Yes, there are two. Are they next to each other? Are they
I
next
think
to?
they share a 5. It's a
That would be
duplex.
4 and 6. It's a duplex.
They share a wall.
So, so that pain is exceptional. You experienced nerve pain. That pain will make you vomit. I don't know if you threw up from it. That pain, that really literally rocks you to your neurological core. Was there a physical incident?
That's the other thing. Everyone's like, were you in a car accident? Like,
Right.
you're so broken. And I'm like, no football. I work out. We're talking like a 20-minute Pilates mat routine.
that doesn't cause
It's
what
not.
this is, right?
I go to see surgeons. And they're just like, yeah,
Yep.
now it's not a bulging disc, it's a herniated disc. I'm like, when did it graduate? Like, is that the same? How did we not know this? Whatever. Herniated disc. So I'm like Googling what that means. It's like basically the
And you're
spongy
texting your
part.
friend Mayim. Yeah. Well,
Texting Mayim. You were the only one who offered real solutions. You were like, here are some names, here are some things, because everyone else is like, I'm old too. And you're like, I'm a doctor.
so basically in between you have a spinal cord, which is bones, right? Just like all the bones in your body. But in between there's this jelly. It's like a little jelly disc.
Yes.
I picture those like, there used to be a candy. They look like, what's the one with the hole in the middle?
A jelly ring.
Yeah, they look like jelly rings. But anyway, Fruit Loops. They look like Fruit Loops, but they're squishy. And what happens is they can herniate
Loop
literally,
out.
and they can start eking out. And if it fully herniates, the gel starts. It's the pulpus mucosa. It starts to come out.
We know what a pulpus mucosa is, Mayim.
But it exposes the nerve, which is running through your entire spine. That's your spinal cord, and that is designed to be the most sensitive part of your body because it connects to your brain stem, which is how you breathe. So this part of your body is designed for you to sit up and take notice when it's hurt. And that's what's going on. And your body can reabsorb that, but surgeons will be like, I'll fix it. Dr. Sarno is the line of thinking that there are plenty of people walking around probably with herniated and bulging discs who feel zero pain, that there is specifically a personality type was what he sort of revolutionized this aspect of back pain. I got that book from Chuck Lorre because I came to work. It was actually the anniversary of me coming to work like this, I believe, 6 years ago. Literally like the number 7. I was hunched over from the waist. I could not stand up. And Chuck Lorre said to me, I know what you've got. This is the book that will change your life. And you know what I did? I didn't read it. And then it happened to me again, I think a year later. And I finally read the book and I literally Googled, I Googled the therapist that I could find in Los Angeles. I Googled that condition. He calls it TMS, transient myostatic syndrome. Yeah. And I did a year of trauma body work because...
Oh my God, I read a chapter half awake the other night after a hard kombucha.
They said that difficult patients sometimes need to see a therapist. But most people recover, literally, most people recover simply from learning the information, not recover. Most people learn to manage their body from reading.
Look at this.
Dr. Sarno.
Where
this is a thing. I'm in love right now with everything that's happening with you.
Make
and
a
me.
list of all the stresses in your life.
Yes.
Not going to show you, but it's on the other side.
What Eliza experienced in just reading one chapter was that when you learn that there's a component of you that is contributing, not causing, but contributing to that cycle of tension and pain, simply breathing into that, holding that information for most people can start to have you see some relief from that pain. It's really, really, it is fascinating. And it's one of those things that if it continues to be put into practice, can absolutely revolutionize medicine.
Mayim Bialik's Breakdown is supported by Pear Eyewear.
We define who we are as people in so many different ways. Are you the crafting whiz? Maybe you're a karaoke slayer. Are you a cool aunt? You're a unique mashup of all your favorite things, and there are so many ways that you can express yourself. Celebrate all that you are. Explore who you can be with customizable prescription glasses from Pear Eyewear. Oh, look, you see the color they are now? How about if I take these off? Oh, hey. Now they're a totally different color. Change your glasses like you change your clothes. Get started by choosing your base frame. My base frame is blue. And then you choose options from square to cat eye for the shape. Every frame comes in 6 different colorways, including classic black to remixed blue tortoise. Then you pick your top frames and build a collection to match your personality. Get glasses as unique as you are. 1 pair, infinite style, starting at just $60. Jonathan, while I play with my glasses, tell them where to go.
Go to paireyewear.com/Mayim for 15% off your purchase. That's 15% off at paireyewear.com/Mayim. Mayim Bialik's Breakdown is supported by Thrive Cosmetics.
Thrive Cosmetics has high-performance beauty and skincare products made with clean, skin-loving ingredients. That means no parabens, no sulfates, no phthalates, and they're always certified 100% vegan and cruelty-free. Cause is in the name for a reason. Thrive Cosmetics. Every purchase supports organizations that help communities thrive. I'm always up for a lip treatment, and they have a liquid balm lip treatment that is excellent day. Thrive Cosmetics' Bigger Than Beauty mission is one that really resonates with me and with Jonathan. For every product purchased, Thrive Cosmetics donates to help communities thrive. They have over 300 giving partners across the country, supporting numerous causes like Refuge for Women and the American Red Cross. Now's a great time to try Thrive Cosmetics for yourself. You can get 15% off your first order when you visit thrivecosmetics.com/break. That's Thrive Cosmetics, CAUSEMETICS.com/break. break for 15% off your first order. Welcome to our podcast, Howie Mandel.
Whether it was, phoning out of the yellow pages a building contracting company and telling them and giving them my name. My name's Howie Mandel. I didn't disguise my voice or anything, and saying, we're thinking of putting an addition onto the library, and at 3:00, could you come out and give me an estimation? Knowing because at 3:00, I would be sitting in math class and I could look down on the field and just me alone. Like, it would be better. I don't understand the psyche that I was working on. It would be better if I said to a friend, you're not going to believe it. I called a company. When you see the guy, he's going to be measuring. I didn't tell anybody. So now I'm sitting in math. There's a guy with a tape measure and a clipboard in the field. Everybody's doing math, and like an insane person, I'm just giggling. I'm looking out the window and giggling at nothing. And if the teacher asks what I'm giggling at, it's look, the guy's there. He's measuring. And I called him. And then you see the principal walk out to the guy in the field, and I know I can only imagine what that conversation is. And then I see the guy leave, and I see the principal like in a huff go back into the office. And then you hear over the PA system, "Will Howard Mandel please come to the office?" And I go to the office, and I'm standing there, and he goes, "Did you call somebody to put an addition onto the library?" And I say, "No." He said, "Well, he has your name." I go, "I didn't ask him to do it. I'm getting 3 estimates." And he did not laugh. And I just thought it was great. I love that discomfort, And he said, "Wait here and we'll call your parents." And they called my parents. My parents were sitting there. And he reiterated the story to my parents. And I could see my parents were like just biting their lip because they're supposed to discipline, but they can see the humor in it.
Let's welcome Jaylen Rose. People say to me like, "Oh, aren't you proud of, insert athlete here for talking about mental health?" And I say, absolutely. But you're up against challenges that are exceptional. The pressure is enormous. And I don't know how you just said, Meta said, he's like, "I didn't know what to do, so I laid down," What's your take on that?
And I love Simone Biles and Naomi Osaka, and I applaud their courage because it's now being acknowledged about mental health issues and PTSD. Those just things we didn't talk about in the 80s and the 90s. They existed. I went up for a slam dunk in high school, got clotheslined, fell on the back of my head, went into convulsions, and got carried off in an ambulance. There has to be some lingering effects of that. From the streets of Detroit, Michigan, I've seen and heard a lot of stuff for a young, impressionable mind. And so sports is an escape, just like acting is an escape, but it's not, it doesn't make you exempt. And it creates more pressure. Just imagine being Simone Biles. In basketball, I could miss a shot. I could have a turnover. Like, she got to stick the landing and get a 10. Imagine that everything you did all day had to be a 10.
This kind of notion of like, well, this is what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to play, and I don't want to hear it.
I'll tell you, that's 2 words in no particular order: jealousy and money. That's all it is. Like, we live in the United States of America. I can't help that you guys value sports more than you value education. You pay me millions of dollars to play basketball, but you won't pay teachers $100,000 to educate your kids. But you pay to be entertained, right? And so what ends up happening is you get treated as property based on your salary. I remember being a college athlete and trying to figure like why we're not getting paid for our name, image, and likeness. Well, now since it's happening 30 years later, 30 years later, I remember people that I either now work with or see them in the public eye that have either changed their stances because they were like the public. And what did the public say? Just shut up and be happy you got a scholarship.
That's it.
oh, if I was you, I wouldn't be complaining. You got somebody giving you X amount of dollars, paying for your education. Like, I'm paying for my education with my talent. What are you talking about? That's how America works. And so I think there was also a jealousy factor from the public that envied the kind of money. Oh, they get paid millions of dollars just to play a sport? Like right now, look at a player like Russell Westbrook. The last couple of years, while averaging a triple-double, he still had to reinvent himself. That's a life skill that I've taken from sports. That's one of the reasons why I encourage young people to play sports, because of the life skills, the social skills that teach you how to deal with success, how to teach you how to deal with failure, how to deal with your anxiety, how to deal with your depression. It teaches you all of those lessons. And everybody's judging you at the same time. They're cheering every play, they're booing every play, they're writing about every play, they're posting about every play. Every clip is a highlight, everybody trying to go viral. It's a ooh and ah, nah. It's like, wow. Like sports teaches you so much so fast.
It's really a pleasure to welcome Jennette McCurdy. For me, I know that there's a point when you're so in that you can't get out. Was that your experience? Was it something else?
I mean, I appreciate you asking because I do think it's an important one to clarify and speak to. When I say my identity was like what my mom thought of me, it was 100% that. So the idea of pulling away, getting away wasn't even something that came into my mind, to be honest. Right. It was just like, I would be completely lost. I would be nothing without her. Also, I had been fed that messaging my entire life of, you're completely incompetent. You are not smart. You can't do anything without me. You need me. I'm the thing that keeps you from just completely being derailed and a loose cannon and unable to handle yourself. Like it was all that messaging for so long of my life that led me to think that I was kind of incompetent and helpless and didn't know right from wrong, didn't know good from bad, couldn't make decisions on my own without her. So that was definitely what kept me from getting away sooner. And then I do think, so my mom had cancer for the first time when I was 2. So I was always kind of aware of the fragility of her health. And I think that played a part of thinking, like, I just had this weight on me all the time of, well, she could go at any time. It was stage 4 metastatic breast cancer. Somehow miraculously she recovered, but knowing that, she was in doctor's offices every 3 months to get these checkups and, constantly, she had a bone marrow transplant and constantly having these different surgeries and checkups and everything. It was just like the awareness of her death was always weighing on not just me, but the entire family, and then her cancer recurred when I was 18. And I actually think that would have been exactly the time that was like 5 years into the show. That would have been exactly the time that I would have been like, fuck you, mom. I don't want anything to do with you. I'm leaving you. Where I would have started really just, I think, rebelling like full, like very intensely. But because of her cancer, then I felt kind of roped back in with that guilt and that obligation and just all those overwhelming feelings that come with the imminence of death.
With all due respect to your mother, this is a really, I think it's important to talk about for exactly what you said, the complexity of why we stay, whether it's in a romantic relationship, in a friendship, in our family. Like, it's an incredibly complicated and elaborate system that is directly linked to our emotional capacity to tolerate the discomfort of what happens when you try and get out. And I think, oh my God. Well, and I think this kind of, I think that this likely will resonate with a lot of our listeners because there's a lot of kind of symptoms, of this, and you'll kind of see it and it'll come out in different ways. And for people who stay, I don't know what's easier or harder, in some ways it's easier to stay. And in some ways, it's easier to leave. And there's not a right or wrong. It sounds like you've done a tremendous amount of work on yourself, which is extremely admirable. But what happens is when you take away the kind of primary enmeshment attachment, and you take away that the only thing that felt safe, even when it was dangerous, the sense of a lack of control is really, really unbearable. And the release of that person is it is a hole that nothing can fill. We're just going to introduce
Let's do it.
Kel Mitchell. For young people especially who grow up in situations where they see difficult things going on that they're completely powerless over in their community, in their world, that has a really large impact on the mental health, not only of individuals, but of communities. And, this is something that, I think a lot of people don't remember that, like, oh, Black Lives Matter also, like, had this country on its knees, like, even before COVID, rightfully so. But for a lot of us, part of quarantine, part of, the pandemic and the isolation was also watching an ongoing struggle that's been going on for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, kind of playing out in front of us. And I think that there's, as helpless as I feel, right, that I can't be in those communities and marching, the people who grow up in communities that are touched by violence, and I'm not just talking about Black people, I'm talking about people who grow up in communities that are touched by violence or by drug abuse. Those have an impact. And, there have been many wonderful documentaries that I force my children to watch, the 13th being one of them. But maybe you can speak a little bit about kind of what it was like for you, because you mentioned things in passing that many of us could never imagine having to deal with, like losing loved ones to this kind of violence. Like, can you talk a little bit about how you compartmentalize that as a kid or as an adult?
Definitely. So in the early 90s, growing up on the south side of Chicago, we dealt with a lot where in my household, it was love, which was beautiful. And my parents keeping us covered and praying with us. But then when we go outside that door, what was really deep was how prayer covering us and them covering us, because I lost a lot of friends, you know what I mean, to gang violence. One of my best friends was murdered, shot in the head. And I talked about that on when I did Dancing with the Stars around that time, because I felt it was so important, because we were having so much gun violence that was going around in 2019. And what touched my heart so much was that, man, I've been dealing with this since I was a tween. You know what I mean? And I've seen it.
But you kind of gain an adult consciousness, I think, when you have to deal with adult things like that, meaning having a sense of loss like that and a sense of fracturing of your own community and your own family and your social structure. It gives you a worldliness that a lot of kids probably can't relate to.
You gain an anxiety when you're losing people around you. And then it's like, well, who can I trust? And then even with relationships, you pick the wrong type of people as well.
Yes, you do.
Which is very true within that, because you haven't found a good sense of your own self and how can I trust, and letting go of a lot of things. And I dealt with a lot of that in my journey of just life. You know what I mean? I won't even say through my career, but just in life, That's what just really happened to me, where I realized that this is a spiritual warfare that's going on. You know what I mean? A lot of people have generational curses. A lot of people are dealing with a lot of generational things. And it's like, okay, you have to know how to powerfully pray that off. So going through my life, I learned how to do that. And I've seen it happen to even with myself. And I've seen it happen with others. And now it was a situation where I would look at people and I could tell, no, they're going through certain things. I don't think this is, God showed me that discernment.
Let's welcome Cheyenne Jackson.
When I took that first drink, I always describe it as my head being like sharp, jagged mountain peaks. And when I took that drink, it's like somebody poured yellow cake batter into the peaks, and it slowly went up and it evened everything off. And I felt like, oh, there Cheyenne is. Oh, he's not the guy in the corner that can't talk to anyone. He's the guy that will talk to anybody. And he is interesting and interested. And I felt really in my own skin. The problem was, once I felt really in my skin, I wanted to keep feeling that feeling. And then I would start thinking about, when can I feel that again? My drinking just started to get out of control. At one point I was doing 30 Rock during the day. And then I was doing the revival of Finian's Rainbow on Broadway at night. They worked it to where I could work and then immediately run to the theater and it was a crazy time. But I started to, my dream, I would get to the bar and I wouldn't even be able to be focused with my friends and have fun with them. I would just be thinking like, when's the next round?
Yep.
Are we going to get more? Are you going to finish that? I mean, I would be watching someone's drink like, oh my God, she's not even drinking it. It's sitting right there. It's so delicious. And look, she's not even watching. Look at her. She's just like looking around the room, taking sips. Like it became an obsession. And I had a few scary instances where I blacked out. I had a couple of overdoses. I ended up in the hospital. I've never talked about that, but I think it's important to be honest about. I started doing GHB, which is what a lot of people do. A lot of in the gay community at my time, there was a lot of that. And yeah, on 2 separate occasions, I woke up in the ER, and my friends just said, "You just kind of fell asleep on the dance floor, and you were asking about your dad, and you didn't have a shirt on." And I'm like, oh, charming. So one too many instances like that, and then I actually met Sia, the Sia who we all know and love. I met her we were at a photo shoot together, and she was getting ready to go to rehab the next day. And I was really taken with her and she with me. And we definitely had a great rapport. She had seen me in Xanadu, a play I did on Broadway. We kind of kept in touch, and I watched her life explode in the following like 6 to 10 months or so. And what we say in recovery is attraction rather than promotion. And you see something in someone else that you want. And I wanted that. I wanted peace. She had a peace that she didn't have before. And I did not have peace. I was in a marriage that was not great, not great communication, and just not a great fit anymore. I got married, I'm talking about my ex-husband. It was just, my life had become unmanageable. And I said to Sia one day, I think I might, she's like, be an alcoholic? I'm like, yeah. She said, I was wondering when you were going to ask me about this. So she took me to my first meeting in New York on 52nd, I think. And I sat and cried through the whole meeting. I was going to
say, it's just, yeah.
Cried the whole meeting. She held me the whole time. And that was the beginning of it for me. It landed hard for me. And I realized, oh, this is where I need to be. That was 8 years ago.
Wow.
Actually, no, 8.5, because I had one slip up after my first 6 months of sobriety. I was shooting a movie in Europe and just lost my marbles for a night and thought, oh, I can do one more night, and then cut to. That is how my road took me here.
Here's a question, and this is a scary one, I think. I mean, it's the question. So if whatever it is, whether it's alcohol or sex or food or work or weed or whatever it is, if that's what's like filling in those jagged edges, right? If that's the cake batter, it's not that different also from if you go on, medication for suicidal depression or for anxiety and you realize, oh, wait, there was something different in me and this makes it doable. So the scary question is, who are we if we're not like filling it with cake batter, right? Like, was Cheyenne supposed to be this anxious, person when we find sobriety, emotional sobriety or, whatever kind of sobriety? What we're saying is that we are learning something else besides that cake batter that allows us to both be who we're supposed to be while also being an acceptance of all the limitations we have that made us want to use in the first place, right?
Right.
Let's get right into it.
Welcome, Sarah Silverman.
I just love that testicles have to be the exact right temperature at all times.
For
So
sure.
they're like we use balls to be like, she's got balls. And it's just like, meanwhile, actual balls are like, I'm cold. I need to get close to the body.
That's what I say. I have started using the expression, they've got ovaries. I say it about men or women. Ovaries are super resilient.
It's catching on.
It's catching on. And I explain to my children who wish that I wasn't their mom at moments like this, that when someone calls someone a pussy, because that is, that was a very common thing that boys would call each other. I said, the vagina is one of the most resilient things that exist on the planet.
That's what I say. If balls are pussies.
That's
pussies.
Right.
Just try this on for size. This is what I've been saying. I like ovaries, but grow a pair of lips. Feels right to me. I think it's an easy, and then for pussy, just go oh, I feel like a left nut not talking to him in person, but.
That really captures the vulnerability, doesn't it?
We'll make sweatshirts.
We do need sweatshirts. Grow a pair of lips. Let's welcome Corey Taylor.
They move things or they throw things to get attention. It was never malevolent. It was never gnarly. It was intimidating, but it was never anything until we discovered this one entity. We called him the Shadow Man. And
I'm never gonna sleep again. I'm never going.
Then you're not gonna want to hear this. So my son Griffin, he was, I want to say he was about 3. He was about 3 at the time. And and whenever I would come home from tour, he would beg me, just please, please, please sleep in the room with me, sleep in the room with me. And one night I was like, son, I can't, you're getting to be a big boy. You got to sleep by yourself. Why do you want me to sleep in here? And he said, because when you're in here, the Shadow Man doesn't keep me awake.
I can't.
Hold on. The Shadow Man doesn't what?
Doesn't keep me awake. So that I was like, oh Christ. So I knew all the stuff that was going on in the house. There was weird things that were going on in the 3rd floor. There was a 3rd floor attic that was basically another bedroom that guests would stay in for about 3 hours. And then they would come running out. They were like, nope, we're not going to do this. People would have welts on their legs from being, it was gnarly.
How long did you live in this haunted house?
Up until I got divorced. And then we sold it and we split it. But some of those entities attached themselves to me. Not the dark one, but there were 2 younger entities that basically followed me, I think, because I was a father. And they were attracted to that energy that
How do you know they were younger? Describe it. What does that mean to you? How do you know?
I saw them. I saw them. They would run in my old house. They would run across the top floor at a split level. So you would be walking in the door, and up the stairs, you would see the 2nd floor, right? And you could see about this much of the 2nd floor because the ceiling cut it off, and you would see their shoes run across.
I don't like that.
They would stack Griffin's books in the middle of his bedroom. And then when you would put them away again, you would come back and they'd have stacked it again.
Do you know anything else about them?
No, we never tried to communicate with them. To me, I didn't want to know who they were.
Right.
I just wanted to be able to live with them. It wasn't anything where I was trying to get answers or dispel them because I didn't get gnarly vibes from them. So I wasn't worried about them hurting anybody because it was all childlike stuff. I would be making Griffin's breakfast and lunch in the morning before I would take him to school, and they would take his thermos and throw it across the kitchen, and it would hit the aluminum sink, and it would, and it would just, I haven't had any coffee yet, so I'm just like, it would scare the ever-living out of me.
How did the Shadow Man keep him up? Did he ever explain that to you?
So the Shadow Man would stand in the corner, and he would stare, and then he would come towards you. I saw this happen. So that night, I slept in bed with him, and I woke up, and he had this night lightish thing It wasn't a nightlight, but it cast enough of a glow that it kind of illuminated the room. And we're talking about call it a 6x6. It was a little room, you know? And I woke up and I'm fully awake. This wasn't something where it was kind of in between, you know, REM state and whatever. I was awake and I looked up and I saw him. There he was. And I closed my eyes again and I opened them again and he was still there. He came towards me. He stood there and then he vanished. And he just evaporated. He just faded.
Yeah, in that state, is he solid? Is he translucent? Is he hologram-like?
It was this weird mixture. Like it was solid, but you could see through him on the edges.
It's really a pleasure to welcome Hunter McGrady.
Affirmations were huge for me. I started them when I was 16 years old. My therapist at the time, she said, I want you to stand in front of your mirror naked.
Oh my, no.
Yep. She said, slick your hair back after you get out of the shower, completely naked. I want you to look at yourself in the mirror. I want you to tell yourself what you want to love about your body. It doesn't have to be what you love about it, because right now it's not a lot. What you want to love about your body. And I want you to do this every day. That changed my life.
I would cry.
I cried like the first probably 10 times.
Only 10 times? I would still be crying. That cry for me would have lasted 30 years. What would you say? I want to love my hips? What would you say?
Yes. No, I would start. It's so funny. Can I just tell you, when I first started this, I would say things like, I want to love my hips. I want to love my arms. I want to love my legs. I want to love my bigger feet, my tall frame. It really was focused on what I was looking at. And now it's like gone so deep. Now I'm like, I want to, appreciate the way my kidneys are working.
Oh my goodness.
like really, it truly transformed the way that I looked at my body, because I put so much on the way it looked, which was just so wrong.
Jonathan, do you have anything to say?
I need you to do it tonight, Jonathan. I'm just saying.
Oh my gosh.
We're all doing it tonight. Everyone who's listening at home is going to do it tonight.
Yeah.
Do you think you could suggest your top 3 to 5 favorite affirmations, please?
Yes. Okay.
So take a deep breath. I'm ready.
So now my whole thing is, I am enough is my first one, because I also have imposter syndrome. I think that I'm always like, no, you're enough. I am enough. I am enough. I am worthy.
I'm trying. I'm enough. I'm worthy.
Okay. I feel like we need to start with you. We need to go back, though. This is okay. Let me tell you something. There is a book called, I literally have it over here. It is it's not even a book. It's these, it's called Love Powered Co. It is affirmations on cards. You can flip through them every day. I'm telling you, get it, Mayim. I will send it to you. I have no affiliation with them whatsoever.
You should.
I should, right? I know. I'm sad I didn't think about that.
Okay, so those are cards that can give me ideas for affirmations?
Yes, and you can start with things that you truly I mean, for you, it sounds like your body. I think that's a good place to start.
It's really all of me. It's all of me.
It is so helpful. Trust me.
Okay. Do I pick one body part or just the whole thing?
Do the whole thing. And I know you've got a scientific brain. You probably, of all people, know how much when you tell your brain one thing, right?
Yes.
You start to believe it.
I've been telling it bad things for a long time. It believes it. Okay. All right. That was one of our summer editions of Mayim Bialik's Breakdown. Jonathan, these are fun. It's fun having summertime together.
You know why it's so much fun?
Why?
Because if you have a very short attention span, you just get right in. You get a really good line and you get out. I could watch these all day long.
But we don't want people to get used to this. We're going to go back to our normal, boring, long episodes, as you seem to think they are.
They're so long. You have to follow them. You have to listen. People don't just cut to the chase. I just want the sound bites.
In the meantime, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check out our Instagram at Bialik Breakdown. Help us keep building our community there. We're doing really good. Let's have a good summer push from our summer breakdown for the one we hope you never have. Jonathan, we'll see you next time.
It's Mayim Bialik's breakdown. She's gonna break it down for you. She's got a neuroscience PhD or two. One fiction, one and now she's gonna break down. It's a breakdown. She's gonna break it